What is up, guys? It's your boy Exotic Cactus, and yesterday was a massive day for Destiny 2. First of all, the Final Shape launch trailer released, and then shortly after that, the embargo lifted for everyone's early access content. So I put out a video on the early access event I was able to attend. That's linked right up above if you want to see that. But we had many more amazing videos from people like Dado, Fallout Plays, etc. And so information was just coming at you from all angles. It was frankly bombarding you. So in this video, I want to be a lot more focused. We're going to be going over every single exotic weapon and armor piece revealed to be coming in the Final Shape so far. Obviously, there's stuff like the raid exotic that we don't know yet, but this is a pretty big list. And I'm going to be giving my opinion on all of them in terms of theory crafting and what I've experienced behind the scenes. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, gamers, today I wanted to talk to you about an important part of the gaming arsenal, the headset. Having a good headset is essential to the best gaming experience. Being able to be playing a competitive PvP game and hear people, you can pin down what they're going to do before they know what they're going to do. Not to mention, you're never going to be the guy who's echoing in the group chat, and if you're thinking, no one ever echoes in my group chat, you're the guy echoing in the group chat. I hate to break it to you like this. And listen, if you're going to get a headset, why not go all out with the Astro A50Xs? That's these bad boys right here. Completely wireless with a super convenient charger. I bent the thing now, of course. Ta-da! And if you're thinking, well, what console they work with? All of them. In fact, all of them all at once. Thanks to the PlaySync feature, you can actually switch seamlessly between Xbox, PS5, and PC on the fly, a true gamer's dream. Not only that, but you have Pro G graphene audio drivers, you have pro-grade Lightspeed wireless for no input lag, and also, guys, insanely, 24 hours of battery life. Enough for even the most degenerate gaming sessions. So guys, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description down below, and don't forget to use code CACUSHD, and you're going to get a discount on the brand new Astro A50Xs. Definitely check it out. Alright, now let's begin here with the exotic weapons, and first of all, we gotta quickly go over the Tessallation exotic fusion rifle, because if we're talking about Final Shape exotics, this technically counts. Now this is actually the bonus for buying the annual pass edition, so you can gain access to this in the game right now. What it does intrinsically is that it adapts its damage type to match your equipped subclass. Final blows grant grenade energy, and then the other perk for it is going to be irreducible, so you can hold reload and consume your grenade to load a large projectile that generates an elemental explosion on impact. Not seeing a ton of play right now, but being able to change the element could be a lot more useful when Prismatic enters the fray. However, moving on from there, guys, let's talk about a returning icon, the Khvostov. So, this was the first weapon you ever got when playing Destiny 1, and it's back yet again with the exotic version. The intrinsic trait says, every 7th bullet from the weapon deals additional damage and ricochets to nearby targets. And we saw some gameplay of that. It seems like this ricochet bullet does have significantly improved damage. It also has another intrinsic trait called Eyes Up Guardian, where picking up an orb of power makes the next 7 bullets ricochet, and you can see that in action right here. When the orb of power is picked up, the gun is glowing to indicate it has a boost, and on top of all that, guys, it also actually has the shoot to loot perk, which, remember now, because of an update, does also work with orbs of power. So you can shoot an orb of power and then get the Eyes Up Guardian trait. And how good this weapon is going to be is all going to depend on how much actual damage these ricocheting rounds do. It seems like that every 7th ricochet, that one does a bit more damage than the 7 in a row you get from picking up an orb of power. We're really going to have to see. In terms of single target damage, it more seems like an ad clearing weapon because you're constantly going to be picking up those orbs of power as you keep clearing ads, and the ricochet is only good against, multiple ads. I don't think it's going to ricochet back to the same target over and over again, so could be good as an ad clearing weapon. Again, we'll have to wait and see. Moving on from there, guys. We have another Destiny 1 icon, the Red Death Exotic Pulse Rifle. Now this is going to be the Season's Pass exotic for the season coinciding the final shape, and the intrinsic trait is called Redemption. Final blows with this weapon cure you and increase reload speed. Reloading after final blows cures nearby allies. Now on top of that, it has another unique trait here called Inverse Relationship. When you deal damage with this weapon, it gains increased handling, takes reduced flinch, and movement speed is increased for a short time. On top of that, when you are at reduced health, this weapon deals additional damage. So I think the Red Death could be very good in PvP. Healing after every kill is huge, but on top of that, the increased handling, reduced flinch, and movement speed are really going to matter in a PvP environment. Not to mention, if you're in a gunfight and you're taking damage, suddenly getting a damage boost is also very much going to matter. Now for PvE, I mean, it could still definitely be good, but we also have Heal Clip now, and Heal Clip providing cure ×2 for getting a kill and then reloading. Like, that's pretty similar to the Red Death, and you can get those on legendary weapons. So is this going to be worth your exotic slot? Not so much confidence in the PvE side compared to PvP. Now, moving on from there, guys, let's go over the Macrocosm Heavy Trace Rifle. So importantly, right off the bat, this thing is kinetic. It's our first kinetic heavy weapon in the entire game, and it's the first heavy trace rifle in the entire game, and both of those things are going to matter a ton. First of all, in terms of a trace rifle, because the Cenotaph Mask exotic for the Warlock is so popular right now as a way to generate heavy ammo, being able to have your heavy as the trace rifle is, definitely going to switch up the loadout possibilities. On top of that, kinetic matters a lot more than you think, especially in an era of Prismatic. For Prismatic, to gain that Transcendence unique ability where you get the double element grenades and all that stuff, you need to gain both light and dark energy. So if you're just using a strand weapon, you're only going to fill your dark meter. And so once that's full, you have to then get, kills with a, void weapon or whatever other light element to fill the other light bar. And then when both of those bars are complete, only can you use Transcendence. Well, kinetic fills both of them at the same time. So kinetic is by far going to be the easiest way to consistently gain Transcendence, and that's what this weapon is going to let you achieve. Now, that whole spiel aside, the actual exotic perks, intrinsically you have Paracausal Beam, so it fires a beam of kinetic light, dealing massive bonus damage to shields, kind of like the Arbalist with that shield bonus there. And then you also have Paracausal Imbuement as the other unique trait where final blows with this weapon grant super energy. This weapon gains bonus damage once your super expires. Again, these are kind of a little bit more niche in terms of the exotic perks. The real power of this weapon comes from its uniqueness and again being kinetic and so on. But next up, we have the Still Hunt Exotic Sniper Rifle. Now, this was shown off in a teaser originally a week or so back, and it's affectionately called the Golden Gun Sniper Rifle because what it does is the following. The intrinsic trait is Cade's Retribution, which says, pick up orbs of power or land precision hits to charge this weapon's super bar. Once full, hold reload to fire golden gun shots. You literally get golden gun for using this sniper rifle and doing those things. Now it also has another unique trait here, Sharpshooter. This weapon gains passive bonuses to target acquisition, aim down sight speed, and flinch resistance. The bonus increases when this weapon's super mode is active. So the most important thing about this weapon, guys, is simply the word hits. You can land precision hits to charge the super bar. And what that means is that you can use this for boss DPS because you're shooting the big bad raid boss, and as you're doing that, you're building the super bar, then you're activating the massively damaging golden gun, you're using that, you're going back to the weapon, and depending on how much energy you can actually get from those precision hits, like this could be an insanely good weapon for DPS. Because remember, you can come into the damage phase with a fully charged, super, use the golden gun mode, build it back up, use it again, like we could really see some insanity, not to mention all the orbs of power dropped from Well of Radiance and other supers during that damage phase. And the real question is, does this work with the Celestial Nighthawk exotic helmet for the Hunter. That could be absolutely insane if it does. But next up, there's only one more weapon to mention, and that's going to be the Ergo Sum exotic sword. And frankly, the name and the fact that it's an exotic sword is all we know so far. No other information has come out, at least as far as I know, so we're going to have to see more in the final shape. But hey, new exotic sword, frankly, confirmed. Now, moving on from there, guys, let's get into the armor. And of course, we got to start with the objectively best class, Titans. People are going to be mad in the comments for that one. So first of all, let's go over the Hazardous Propulsion exotic chest armor. Again, this was shown off in a teaser a while back where you can build up little rockets, use your class ability, and shoot them all, and that seemed kind of cool, but we now know the exotic intrinsic perk is way more insane. So it's called Danger Close. Weapon precision hits or final blows have a chance to load a kinetic Exodus rocket. Activating your class ability fires loaded Exodus rockets. Damaging targets with Exodus rockets temporarily increases the damage you deal with all other rockets. So, if that's saying I get a damage boost to my Galahorn, to my Apex Predator, or whatever other legendary or exotic rocket launcher you're using, this could be the new best DPS exotic for Titans in the entire game. Because think about a raid boss damage scenario. You've gotten kills beforehand, you've charged your Exodus rockets, everyone goes into the Well of Radiance, now backed up by the bubbles for survivability, and then you use, let's say, the Arc Dash. And you don't even have to be on an Arc subclass, guys. You can be on Prismatic and just gain access to that Arc Dash. You shoot your Exodus rockets, and as long as the damage boost you get stacks with Radiant and the other damage boosts, you're going to be doing just more damage with your rocket launchers. We all know how insane rocket launchers are right now for DPS, so this is unbelievably juicy, guys. Like, if that rocket boost is insane, if it stacks, like, expect to see this quite a lot in raid boss damage scenarios. Moving on from there, guys, the other Titan exotic is going to be the Wishful Ignorance exotic gauntlets. So, the intrinsic trait here says, gain an additional Frenzied Blade charge. Frenzied Blade and Flechette Storm briefly increase their damage with each strike. Pulses from your Banner of War return melee energy based on the number of allies healed. That is super interesting. First of all, Banner of War is nuts, and even though it's getting a nerf in terms of how much melee damage it provides and how much that melee damage can stack with existing melee exotics, so we have stuff like the Syntheseps and the Worm Gods both got hit, having a new one in the mix is obviously super interesting, right? Like, Banner of War plus melee damage increases are insane, right? And boosting the damage of Frenzied Blade is crazy because likely this damage boost would also coincide with, oh, I don't know, a 1-2 punch shotgun, and then also the damage boost from Banner of War and all of that stuff. And now it's returning energy. Don't forget, guys, that this is also pretty good for Prismatic, because in Prismatic, you can put on the Frenzied Blade so you get 3 melee charges, and then you can use Consecration, where you jump up and slam down with that big solar strike, right? Well, 4 consecrations in a row is kind of nuts. So I would expect this to definitely see play in terms of Titan melee builds, especially Strand Titan melee builds going forward, especially after they just nerfed Syntheseps and Worm God. Like, this is now, it seems, the obvious new best choice. Moving on from there, guys, let's go over the Warlock exotics. The first one is going to be the Speaker's Sight exotic helmet, and the intrinsic trait is the Lost Voice. Healing Grenade spawns a restorative turret. Healing allies occasionally spawns an Orb of Power. So this is actually pretty interesting. The restorative turret is likely going to be pretty much identical to the one you get for the exotic Warlock Glaive, and that sees really not much play at all. However, what does see a ton of play is healing grenades on Warlocks. Like, a lot of Warlocks running especially well will use healing grenades to bolster up their team healing and survivability even more. So getting like a little turret that's going to shoot out even more healing just for throwing the grenades you were going to throw anyways could actually be pretty decent, right? However, will this be better than the smorgasbord of good Warlock exotics that you can use if you're running, a healing build, a well build? That's where it comes into question, right? Moving on from there, guys, we have the Mataiodoxia Warlock exotic chest. Now, this again was shown off in a teaser a while back, but now we know specifically the exact wording of the intrinsic trait, and it's called, I'm not even going to bother. So, targets damaged by Arcane Needle emit a suspending detonation when defeated, and landing multiple Arcane Needles on the same target immediately triggers a larger, more powerful detonation. Defeating suspended targets grants melee energy. Your Arcane Needles are strong against barrier champions. So when they first revealed this, players were kind of disappointed by this, honestly, because in the gameplay it looks like you need 3 needles to have that suspending blast, and you still kind of might. And I actually replied, I said, make defeating suspended targets grant melee energy, and I'm in. And your boy was right. Okay, so that's actually a lot more interesting, because if you're getting your melee back from that, then that's actually not so bad of a downside. Not to mention that you don't actually need to use all 3 needles on a singular target. If you do, you get that suspending detonation right away, so good for more powerful targets like champions, but just 1 needle and then defeating that enemy is going to also spawn a suspending blast. Like, suspend is super powerful, especially in PvE, so you really could make like a suspending build out of this exotic. Now, how good is that build gonna be? It waits to be seen, but certainly the potential is there. Getting free suspend detonations, basically free shackle grenades for using your melee that you have 3 charges of, could really actually be quite good. But moving on from there, guys, last and absolutely least, we have the Hunters. I'm just kidding. So for the Hunters, first of all, we have the Balance of Power exotic leg armor. So this was teased a while back, but we now know the exotic trait Double Down. So it says, your Threaded Spectre has increased duration and durability, and damaging it releases additional threadlings. While near your Threaded Spectre, you do not appear on radar. So, the Threadling Hunter build dominated PvP for quite a few months actually, and recently did catch a few nerfs. Could the Balance of Power shift, well, the balance of power? Like, could we actually see that Threadling build make a resurgence? And some people are still running the Hunter Threadling build, so could this really boost that build's power in PvP? Definitely. Also, depending on how many more actual Threadlings you're making, this could also see a little bit of play within a PvE as well. So, moving on from there, guys, the next exotic we are going over is going to be the Gifted Conviction exotic chest. So again, this was teased a while back, but we really didn't know exactly what it did, so here's what the exotic perk says. It's the Gift of Certainty. Activating Ascension or Tempest Strike throws bouncing explosives at nearby targets that jolt and damage them. Additionally, jolting nearby targets grants you damage resistance. So there's kind of 2 main angles of this exotic. First of all is improving Ascension and Tempest Strike. And Ascension is an aspect that the Prismatic Hunter gets. So you could be playing Prismatic and use this and still gain that benefit. But also, improving Tempest Strike, I mean, that definitely makes using Tempest Strike a lot more viable when you're actually getting these little projectiles that jolts everyone every time you use it. But also, the damage resistance. Like, that means if you're throwing an arc grenade that causes a jolt, or, and this is where things could get really insane, simply using a weapon with Volt Shot, you suddenly gain damage resistance. Anytime we've seen damage resistance within Destiny 2, whether it's Woven Mail or the old Void Elemental Well armor mod from years ago that I can't remember the name of, it's been usually insane. Like, damage resistance stacked with healing can really make you nigh unkillable. So depending on the damage resistance and how long it's active, you really could see this exotic getting play just for the increase to survivability, frankly. But overall, if that damage resistance isn't too insane, unfortunately, Arc has not been in the meta at all recently. Now, that's because it's not a featured elemental type. So depending on what the featured elements are next season, we actually could see the Gifted Conviction getting some play. But guys, to finish things off, we actually have 3 more exotic armor pieces, one for each different class, but all 3 of them belong to their own special category. It's the new exotic class armor that can only be used with Prismatic. So, starting us off, we have the Titan exotic mark, Stoicism. And importantly, these exotics are very different from normal exotics because they actually have random rolls. So as you can see right here, this is a table of all of the different special exotic traits that this Titan exotic mark can get. So you can see right here in the first column, Spirit of the Assassin, finishers and powered melee final blows grant invisibility. This is a similar exotic perk to the Assassin's Cowl for the Hunter. So Bungie has taken all these different perks from other exotics and made them possible to get on these new class item exotics, but you can get 2 exotic perks at the same time. And again, you can get all these different random combinations. But moving on from there, we then have the Warlock exotic band, Solipsism, and then these are the different exotic traits that can randomly roll on this exotic. You may notice that some of them are the same, and then there's a few unique ones that only each class can get. And then so to end things off, guys, the final shape exotic we're looking at is the Hunter exotic cloak, Essentialism, and these are all of the different exotic traits that this exotic can get. These are going to be crazy. I mean, you're going to have to dedicate 30 spaces in your vault just for different roles of these exotic class items. Like, that is going to be wild. Each one, and then different roles of each one, can designate and create completely different builds. Wild stuff here. So guys, that is going to be it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.